knowledge by helping each other. So this is not a teaching session. This is more of a session where we interact and we get to know from each other's experiences. Yeah. So this session is basically on teaching pedagogy, or teaching pedagogy, as it is pronounced. We are going to look at the overview. We'll try to understand the significance, what are the different approaches and methodologies that are currently being followed and which are in trend in the current day. Can we move to the second slide? Yeah. So please note the objectives of this session. When you complete this session, which is approximately of an hour or so, the participants will definitely be able to describe various terms and concepts of teaching, pedagogy and its significance. You would be able to discuss on different learning styles and teaching strategies. You will definitely be able to practice some of the approaches of teaching pedagogy, and you will also be able to elaborate on teaching learning methodologies. Why I say this is nothing comes perfect instantly. You will be able to start, and once you feel the interest and you put your time, you will definitely keep improving. As I still am improving on my teaching learning methodologies or processes, so definitely this process is a continuous process. Can we move to the next slide now? Yeah. Can anyone here tell me what is pedagogy? You can put down your thoughts in the chat box. So I will wait for a few seconds for some answers. What, according to you, is pedagogy? Participants, please feel free to put down your thoughts in the chat box. Yeah, different types of teaching methods. Okay. Anyone else? Any other participant wants to you know uh, put down their thoughts on what is pedagogy? Okay, we'll carry on. Grading types. Okay, fair enough. Ma'am, can we have the slide? Yeah. So here in this slide, you can see uh, there is the picture of a child. There is a painting, and there is a picture which says, shows about experiments. So, any idea about what is the significance of this? Yes, Sheikh Abdul Karim, I got your point. Making a class interesting by using different methods. That is the purpose of pedagogy. But what exactly is this? Okay, so I explain here. Pedagogy actually means the art and science of teaching a child. So that is the significance of the three pictures here. Pedagogy, peda is related to children or babies. You understand, when you go to a doctor for a child specialist, that is called a pediatric doctor. So like that, peda stands for child, and pedagogy actually means the art and science. I say it's both an art and science because there is some scientific thought involved here, and definitely teaching is an art. Everyone cannot be a good teacher. So it's the art and science of teaching children. We are, ma'am, back. We are actually more focused on adult learning or teaching adults. That is known as andragogy. However, it's a synonymous term, pedagogy, which is commonly used for teaching learning process. And if you have noted down, there is a interesting statement here. A tutor must elicit response that demonstrates understanding. That means the teaching process is incomplete until and unless the learner has validated that he or she has understood the subject. Till the time the learner has not demonstrated his understanding, the process remains incomplete. Can we move on now? Yeah. So you can see why it's an art. It's putting the theories into practice and building up teaching experiences. The knowledge of theories of learning and instructional strategies is actually the science behind this artistic form. So for teaching, it refers to how educators teach, how you teach in the class, whether it's a practical session or a theoretical session, and it is shaped by the beliefs of a teacher. So there is definitely a lot of room for different kinds of methods and processes. Um, I can see about 35 around audience people. So can anyone tell me about any topic that you teach in your class? Any topic that you teach? I want someone to put it down, or you can unmute and speak if you want. Anyone? Any subject, any topic that you take? Tamil literature. Okay. See, I don't want the subject. I want the topic. Preferably like, okay, Suganti, you have mentioned marketing management. Can you tell me the topic? Yes, please. Any topic? Suganti, can you hear me? Can you mention any branding? Excellent. Okay. So, um, madam, I would like you to, unmute Suganti, madam, for a few seconds. I want her to, just speak up if she can. Tell me, how would you approach a class with this topic, branding? If you can unmute and,
Sir?
yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
I
sir.
just lost power here, so I am just joining on my mobile. But power is back. I think I should be online again in a few seconds. Um, I'm trying to rejoin from the system. Let me just take a second.
Um, so can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry about the power. So I think we'll move on to the next slide. Yes. So again, there is a question for the audience. Do you remember any teacher who inspired you? If yes, you can, put the names in the chat box. I would like to see anyone. If there is a teacher who has inspired you in your classes in school or in college or in university, anywhere, you can just mention the name and what. Yeah, Bauri, you have mentioned Dr. Kripal Mathur. And what was it that inspired you about that person? If you can mention that, it would be more interesting. Maths teacher. Okay. Anyway, um, we'll go back to the point here. Ma'am, can we move on to the next slide? Yeah. So here you see what I try to mention is the average teacher, he tells about the subject. A good one explains, a superior one demonstrates, but the best one inspires. So what exactly do you mean by inspires? Good teachers don't teach what is there in the textbook. They usually go beyond the textbook. They share their experiences, and they become a role model for the student. The student aspires to become like the teacher. In other words, a very good teacher brings his passion into this classroom, which transfers to the student, and the learner gets motivated to, and attracted by the subject. So that is what is your target or what you should try to be. Can we move on to the next slide, ma'am? Yeah. So what is the importance of pedagogy in teaching? As you can see, yes, there is an improved quality of learning. Students are more receptive, more participation. The knowledge is imparted more effectively across a wider spectrum and higher cognitive skills in students. Again, reinforcement of the earlier slide, you can see the learners are more engaged. Today we talk about outcome based learning. So yes, you have better outcomes, more participative classes. There is an opportunity of knowledge creation and obviously the satisfaction that you have achieved more. Can we move on to the next slide? Yeah. So these are the points that I was talking about. Next slide, ma'am. Yeah. So please read this. A thoughtfully developed pedagogy improves the quality of teaching. It makes the student more receptive during the session and improves the level of participation in the process. The right pedagogy helps impart education to students with different learning styles and abilities. So students develop a better understanding of the subject, and this ensures the achievement of the learning outcomes of any session or a course or program. So can we move on to the next slide? Yeah. So again, the right approach is required for students with special needs and from disadvantaged groups. You have to be very careful when we are dealing with students at different levels. Some students come from very suppressed backgrounds who may not be very vocal and who may be very timid. So you need to encourage them to come out of their fear. And this is what a well developed pedagogy will help you to do. The examples make students develop higher cognitive skills. They are able to analyze, they are able to synthesize and evaluate. They create knowledge, their comprehension improves. But we should understand that the aim of teaching pedagogy is always to move from lower order thinking to the middle order to the higher order. This lower order to middle order to higher order technically means remembering and recall is the lower order. The analytical ability and application is the middle order, whereas the evaluative and the creative ability is the higher order thinking. So we need to focus to bring the student from lower order thinking to middle to the higher order. Can we move to the next slide? Yeah. So I would request all the participants, to spend some time and read through this Bloom's taxonomy. So you can see here the lower order thinking is remembering and understanding. So they are able to recall what is your name, lower order. When did Alexander invade India? That's a recall question. Remember, it's all lower order. When you apply some rules, so apply this formula and solve this problem. You apply the knowledge that you have learned and you answer some open book questions. This is the middle order. There are three answers to a solution. So the student is asked to analyze and come out with which is the best answer to be followed. This is the middle order thinking. When there are different solutions and the student is tasked to evaluate and come up with a right solution or the best one, that is a higher order thinking. Sometimes giving the base, you allow the student to create a new product or a new formula or a new model. That is the highest level of teaching learning process creation, knowledge creation, and this is what all the academicians must look at achieving in a classroom. So can we move on to the next slide now? Yeah. So what are the factors which affect the teaching pedagogy? Number one, learning style of the student. So how many of you here know your learning style? As you're all academicians, I just have this question to all. How many of you actually know what is your style of learning? If you are aware of it, please mention in the chat box that yes, this is my learning style. Anyone? Is anyone aware of his or her learning style? Yes. No. Okay. Uh, EX, I could not get that. Yeah. Mm.
So
So
now
now
I
I,
got back power, so I am on my system, and I shall be continuing here. Yes, so if you are aware of creating a diagram, I didn't get that, madam. Anyway, uh, learning style is actually, there are different styles. Either a student is a audio learner, is a visual learner, is a kinesthetic learner, or is a combination of both. So, or someone learns by reading. That is a visual learner. So these are all different types of learners. It definitely has a major impact on the pedagogy that you should choose. The competence of the instructor is very important. The more knowledge you have, the more confidence you have, and the more awareness you have about the different methods of teaching, the more comfortable you will be, and the more comfortable and friendly you are in the class, the better knowledge transfer you will be able to achieve. Availability of resources, yes, if you have a OHP, if you have a PowerPoint facility, if you have other different kinds of whiteboards, blackboards, or multiple boards, if you have access to smart classrooms where you can play videos, all this are teaching aids. They do help in delivery of a session. The educational system, when I say the system, each organization follows its own system. So the challenge is, whether your particular college is more focused on learning outcomes, completion of syllabus, what, and obviously the field of study. You cannot teach hospitality the way you would teach management, or the way you would teach economics, or the way you would teach engineering. So it has its significance. So can we move on to the next slide, ma'am? So here I have mentioned there are four types of learners: visual, read, write, auditory, and kinesthetic. So you please learn your learners, identify them. What is their learning style? There is a site I have shared here. You can note it down, and you can, try to solve the questions which is there. It's a self-styled learning quiz which will help you to understand what kind of a learner you are. So I am just holding it for a few seconds. You can note down the link, or you can take a picture of it and then type it and try this for yourself. Further on, you can ask all your students to try it, and record it for yourself, what kind of learners your students are. So then you can adopt methodologies that suits the majority of your learners, keeping others also equally involved. Shall I move on, ma'am? Yeah. So you see, if you are a visual learner, you prefer using pictures, images, and spatial understanding. If you are a musical or auditory learner, you prefer using sound and music. If someone reads to you, you understand better. Listening to a video, you learn better. A verbal learner uses both words and writing. A kinesthetic learner moves about. They use their sense of touch, sight, hands, everything. So they prefer learning by doing. A logical or mathematical learner uses logic. So any calculations are easy for them, where it is clearly presented. A social learner believes in groups, discussions, and a solitary learner works by himself. So please identify your own learning style, and it will help you to take your sessions to the next level. Next slide, please, ma'am. There are numerous theories on learning based on behaviorism, cognitivism, humanism, and constructivism. I will not go into a lot of depth. You need to, self-study and learn more. Each one has, like, behaviorism related to direct instructions or programmed instruction. Cognitivism is attribution and elaboration, cognitive development, conditioning learning. Humanism is experiential, whereas constructivism has a lot more activity based, situation based, problem solving, discovery, cognitive apprenticeship, or even case study based, and so on. Uh, Next slide, ma'am. Yeah. So here again, I have listed out the different kinds of theories, and who are the main or major authors who have advocated these theories. What is the key concept of this particular theory, and what is the key theory all about, and what would be the role of the teacher in delivering a session using any of these particular theories. So I'm just giving one as an example. If we look at behaviorism, the major authors who have spoken about this are Ivan Pavlov, John Watson, and Rumus Connor. The key concept is basically response to stimuli or conditioning. That is the key theory. And the role of teacher is to create stimulus and response scenarios. So likewise, other theories, you can read through this and understand the role of the teacher in each of these theory. You can read from the authors mentioned. If you search, Google them, you can get the concepts, understand the concepts. If you feel it is useful to try, you can try out this. Can we move to the next? So what are the different approaches? A reflective approach which induces thinking, a constructivist approach which induces activity, a collaborative approach where you join together, and an inquiry based approach where there are questions, you try to find problem solving, an integrative approach which integrates either one, two, three, or many of these approaches. Can we move on? Yeah. So again, I have mentioned here each of these approaches. I will just elaborate on one. So let's look at the uh, inquiry based approach, the last one here. So it is student centered. It excites curiosity in the learners, enhances problem solving skills. There are 4 types: confirmation, structure, guided, open. Confirmation means you confirm the solution. Structure, you develop the structure. Guided, where the teacher guides. And open, there could be multiple solutions for the same problem. So students come up with their own. Can we move on, ma'am? Yeah. So these are again some very interesting articles and top write-ups which you can enjoy reading if you are interested to know more about the role of pedagogy and becoming an effective teacher. You can study any of these different articles. Carry on, ma'am. Next slide. Yeah. So now let us look at what is collaborative learning. Team-based, form a team, use a case study, give a topic and have a debate on a fishbowl manner. Let them catch up on some earlier learnings, or make the teams into pairs, let them think together, pair and share collectively. These are all some strategies. Next slide. Yeah. This is a very important slide. So please look at this picture very carefully. The lectures, the reading in the class, the audio visual and the demonstration, all these are teacher centered. So these are known as passive learning process. The student is not actively involved. So if you see the percentage of retention, it is very low, at the most around 30%. Whereas the next three process, that is discussion, practicing, and when a student becomes a teacher and takes the session, so that is what we call as active learning, and that is where the student learns the most. The retention is highest, 90%, when you teach others. So try to involve teaching pedagogy which is more on the latter three, not on the first four. You can use discussion, you can use projects, you can use role plays, you can use student led sessions, presentations by students, and so on, experiential learning. So all these are active learning. Can we move on, ma'am? Okay. What are the skills that is required for a modern teacher? I have added 4 new skills here. The teacher has to be innovative, technology enthusiast. He should be socially, acceptable, and he should be a geek. That means fast at, using this SMS lingo and all this sort of, technical jargon. So earlier, the teacher needed only the red highlighted skills. But today you need to be updated with all these skills also. सादिर, मैं आपको 5 मिनट में कॉल करता हूँ, ठीक? मैं भेज देता हूँ. And when we look at pedagogical skills, communication is number one, because if your communication is good, only then you will be able to interact well. You have to be adaptable. Nowadays, students have a lot of information easily available on the internet and so on. So you can expect a lot of awkward questions out of hand. So you must be able to adapt to all these situations. Collaborative, yes, amongst yourself, amongst your students, include them, have compassion for the students and your fellow colleagues and so on. Can we move on to the next slide? Yeah. How do you improve your skills? You review your student evaluation, check their learning, because if you remember in the first slide I had mentioned, if the student is not able to demonstrate his understanding, then there is something wrong in the teaching process. Discuss this with your colleagues, attend conferences and sessions like this, keep up with studies. I have shared a number of studies, please go through them. Ask your management to provide you additional training, and keep updated with technology and gadgets. That is very important. Can we move on now? Yeah. So using your skills, you have to be a proactive communicator. Don't wait for others. Reach out. Try different styles of learning and teaching. Don't stick to one because that is working for you. You never know till you have tried that the other one may work better. Let the students design assignments. Let them lead the sessions. Include them to be part of your class sessions. Give them space to express themselves. Learn to identify the learning traits of the students, and involve them in activities where their learning traits are facilitated. Ideally, don't be a teacher, be a learning facilitator. Your role is to facilitate learning, help your students to learn. Don't try to teach them. Move out from my job is to teach. No, my job is to facilitate learning. My job is to help my students learn and achieve targets. Can we move on, ma'am? Yeah. Some of the innovative teaching methods which I have mentioned here: project-based, flipped classrooms. You can use crosswords, quizzes, MCQs, experimentation and experiential learning. It can be activity-based. It can be simulation. You can have virtual labs, and again you could have a blend of any of these or all of these methods put together. Try out, be experimentative, be ready to do things differently, and keep experimenting, because you never know where you will be more successful or you will achieve better. Can we move on, ma'am? Yeah. So again, the delivery process: set up the objective, provide the delivery along with self-study and whatever, include the learning activities, interactions, exercises, practices, evaluate against the objectives, then take feedback and again bring it back. So this you can repeat for each chapter, each credit point, and also for the entire course. So this way, reinforcing what you have taught and ensuring that it is absorbed well. Next slide, ma'am. We are almost nearing the end of this session. Now there are few points here which I want all of you to keep in mind. Every session need to have an icebreaker. Even if you are going with the same students, take the first few minutes, have an icebreaker, break the monotony of the session. Every session must have an introduction which should be styled in this win format. Ma'am, can we go to the first slide or the second slide of this presentation quickly once? The second slide, ma'am. Second slide, yeah. So you see here, I have put the session objectives. This is what this session is all about. WIN stands for what, the interest, and the need. So here you see the what is explained clearly, what this session is going to be about and what will be the outcome. The next slide. Yeah, again, here we are continuing on the what. Can we move on? Next one. Next one. Yeah, see, this is the interest. I try to generate some interest by giving some input. Here you can have a story or something related to the topic. Gain the audience focus, gain the interest. Next. Next one, ma'am. Yeah. Next is the need. So we can go back to the slide where we were. Yes. So you see, if you follow this what, interest, and need, the need, you have to give both a professional need as well as a personal need to attract more students and keep them more enthusiastic. The next step is the session has to be broken down properly in a structured manner, and the delivery has to be planned and practiced. Break the entire session into steps. After each step, reinforce, stimulate, and engage the students. Evaluate, summarize, and if necessary, make alterations so that your next session is improved. Next slide, ma'am. Yes, I need all my teachers, colleagues to be having high energy levels. You should not be predictable. Students should not say that, oh, it is this sir's class, so he'll usually come in 10 minutes late. So I can also move in 10 minutes late. Don't be predictable. Sir will always start by asking questions. No. Some days you can change your strategies, try different things, do things differently. I said that's what. Be innovative, be creative, involve the students, have them to lead the sessions. Next slide. Be honest and be yourself. Don't try to, copy or be like somebody else. Understand your limitations, accept it. For example, if somebody does not have a loud voice, that is not a constraint. Accept it, but ensure, if required, ask for a collar mic so that you are audible. Learn from students. Be ready to accept that in certain cases they may be more knowledgeable than you. Allow them the freedom to express themselves. Acknowledge them. Celebrate their achievements. Give them accolades. Keep yourself updated. Continuously do research and keep learning more. Prepare for each session as though it is the first time you are going to deliver it. And lastly, be ready to expect the unexpected, because as I said, this is a different world surrounded by technology. A lot of things happen. For example, I can give you today, 2 times the power went off and I had to switch to a backup and start the session on my mobile. So likewise, there are things which will go wrong, which may go wrong anytime, and you need to be ready to have an alternate or solve those as it comes. Can we move on, ma'am? Yeah. So as I said, I have come to the end of this presentation, and now the ball is in your court. We are open. I have shared my inputs, so feel free to ask questions.